Have you ever stepped into a plane and instantly felt the difference? Not just in the way it looks, but in the way it makes you feel. That subtle shift in mood. The lighting, the silence, the space. It's not magic, it's design. And the Boeing 737 MAX 7 is using it like never before. This isn't just a smaller aircraft with a fresh coat of paint. It's Boeing's answer to one of the biggest questions in modern aviation. How do you make flying feel better? Not just faster or cheaper, but emotionally better? If you're someone who follows aircraft design, engineering updates, or even just the evolution of passenger experience, this interior reveal will catch your attention. But more than that, this video will show you how every change in the 737 MAX 7's interior was guided by something deeper, the human mind. Stick with this video until the end, and you'll understand why this aircraft's interior could redefine the standard of comfort in narrow-body jets. And as a bonus, we'll share an insight about future Boeing interiors that hasn't been widely discussed yet, one that may surprise even seasoned aviation enthusiasts. Let's begin. For decades, cabin design was more about function than feeling. Passengers were numbers, rows were packed, and comfort was, well, optional. But something has changed. Airlines and aircraft makers like Boeing are now listening, not just to noise complaints or fuel costs, but to neuroscience, behavioral psychology, and passenger emotions. Why? Because how people feel inside an aircraft affects how they think about flying, and about the airline itself. Stress, anxiety, discomfort. These aren't just passenger complaints. They are barriers to loyalty, booking decisions, and even onboard spending. And Boeing knows this. Enter the 737 MAX 7. This aircraft may be the smallest of the MAX family, but it carries something powerful, a completely reimagined interior space designed around one core idea. Make passengers feel better, not just fly better. From the moment you walk in, everything feels different. And that feeling isn't accidental. It's the result of years of research into human behavior during flight. Consider this. Psychologists have long known that humans react strongly to enclosed spaces, unnatural lighting, and unpredictable noise, three things that describe most airplane cabins. These environmental factors trigger what's known as ambient stress. You may not even realize it's happening, but your body does. Your heart rate increases, your patience shortens, your perception of time stretches. That's why Boeing started to think differently. What if the cabin could actually counteract that effect? Not by adding luxury, but by using design principles that align with how the brain works best. Open space, soft light, quiet surroundings, and predictable comfort. That's what the new 737 MAX 7 interior is built to do. But before we get into the specific upgrades in the next section, let's look at the bigger picture. This aircraft isn't just another iteration in the 737 series. It's a strategic piece of Boeing's vision for the future, especially in short to medium-haul markets where passenger volume is high, but comfort has traditionally been sacrificed. The MAX 7 serves a psychological purpose in Boeing's portfolio. It's the plane that says, you don't need to fly long-haul to feel premium. You just need a smarter cabin. For frequent flyers, aviation lovers, or even airline executives watching closely, this shift is massive. Because it reflects a new understanding, the cabin isn't just a container for travel, it's an environment that shapes memory. And memory, as human psychology proves, is emotion-driven. We don't remember flights for their statistics. We remember how they felt, whether we were cramped or relaxed, whether we felt rushed or calm, whether we walked out of the cabin thinking that was better than I expected. That impression is what drives return customers. That impression is what earns airline loyalty. And that impression starts the moment a passenger steps into the cabin, into the space Boeing has now redesigned from the ground up. So as we move into the deeper breakdown of the upgrades in the next section, keep this in mind. Every element of the 737 MAX 7's interior, from the lighting to the luggage bins, was designed not just to look modern, but to feel human. This is where aircraft design meets cognitive science, where engineering meets emotion, and where Boeing is quietly reshaping the psychology of air travel, one passenger at a time. Stick around till the end, because what you're about to learn may just change the way you think about airplane cabins forever. And yes, there's a Boeing interior secret we'll reveal at the end that even most enthusiasts haven't caught on to yet. Let's move on. The moment you step into the Boeing 737 MAX 7, your brain registers something is different, even before you realize why. The lighting feels natural, the space feels open, the cabin feels calmer. It's not your imagination, it's the result of Boeing's investment in what they call passenger-focused engineering. Let's begin with one of the most subtle yet powerful upgrades, cabin lighting. The MAX 7 uses Boeing's Sky Interior Lighting System, A fully programmable LED setup that mimics the natural phases of daylight. Bright blue during boarding, soft amber during cruising, warmer tones for landing. Why does this matter? Because human brains are wired to follow the circadian rhythm, our natural sleep-wake cycle, synced with light. Disruption to this rhythm, especially during air travel, leads to jet lag, fatigue, and irritability. Researchers at Harvard Medical School have confirmed that exposure to specific lighting patterns during travel can ease transitions between time zones and reduce fatigue. Boeing's lighting isn't decorative, it's neuroscience in action, helping passengers stay mentally aligned during flight. Next, let's look overhead. Traditional 737 seconds were known for cramped angular bins that forced passengers to gate-check carry-ons or fight for space. The MAX 7 introduces pivot bins, redesigned overhead compartments that swing open with more clearance and store 50% more bags than the previous generation. But it's not just about storage, it's about psychological load. Studies published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology show that cluttered environments trigger anxiety, even in short bursts. When passengers see crowded bins, their heart rate increases. They feel rushed. Tension rises even before takeoff. By expanding space overhead, Boeing reduces visual clutter and creates a sense of order, something the human brain instinctively responds to with calm. Now, listen closely, or rather don't. One of the most noticeable differences in the MAX 7 cabin is the sound, or the lack of it. Thanks to updated LEAP 1 billion engines and enhanced acoustic insulation, the cabin is significantly quieter than older 737 models. Less engine hum, less vibration, less ambient noise. Why is this important? According to NASA's Aviation Human Factors research, persistent noise above 70 decibels increases mental fatigue and reduces cognitive clarity, even during short flights. Quieter cabins help passengers relax, focus, sleep, or simply enjoy the flight without sensory overload. It's not just about peace, it's about cognitive comfort. Now let's move to the seats. Although seating configuration varies by airline, Boeing's base design for the MAX 7 includes slimmer seat backs, adjusted recline angles, and optimized legroom based on ergonomic studies. While numbers like pitch and width are often debated, here's what really matters: pressure distribution. When pressure builds unevenly on the lower back or thighs, it creates discomfort that grows over time. Boeing worked with human factors engineers to create seating layouts that reduce pressure points, especially during flights over 2 hours, where fatigue begins to show. The design isn't just about squeezing more rows into a cabin. It's about allowing the human body to sit more naturally, with better spinal alignment and less muscle tension. Better posture means better mood, even in economy class. But perhaps the most overlooked upgrade is something you can't see: air quality. The MAX 7 includes a high-efficiency particulate air HEPA filtration system, capable of capturing 97% of airborne particles, including bacteria and viruses. Air is also refreshed every 2 to 3 minutes through a laminar airflow system, which helps reduce odors, removes stagnant zones, and maintains even temperature. Why does this matter to psychology? Clean air isn't just about health, it's about perceived safety. Passengers feel calmer when the cabin smells fresh and the temperature is consistent. Studies show that perceived air quality influences overall satisfaction, even more than seating or meal quality. This ties into what psychologists call sensory harmony, the balance of light, sound, space, and scent working together to create a feeling of control. And when passengers feel in control, they experience lower stress levels, even during turbulence or delays. Together, these upgrades form more than just a checklist of improvements. They work in harmony, engaging the 5 senses in subtle but effective ways. The lighting regulates your internal clock. The bins remove the anxiety of space competition. The sound levels protect your mental clarity. The seating protects your body's comfort system. And the air? It helps your brain relax, even if you're thousands of feet above the ground. This isn't luxury. It's evidence-based comfort. It's the science of design meeting the psychology of flight. Boeing didn't just build a smaller jet with modern features. They engineered an environment, one that quietly supports the emotional and physical needs of real human beings, not just passengers. This is what makes the 737 MAX 7 so interesting to aviation enthusiasts. It's not about flashy tech or radical change. It's about how every inch of the cabin reflects an understanding of how people really experience flight. And that level of thinking, human-centered thinking, is shaping the future of aviation from the inside out. When airlines decide which aircraft to buy, they're not just buying fuel efficiency or range anymore. They're investing in perception. Because what passengers feel inside a cabin now matters as much as where the plane can go. The Boeing 737 MAX 7 is a direct response to this shift, a move toward designing aircraft from the passenger experience inward, not just from the engineering outward. For years, airline economics prioritized cost per seat. Rows were tighter, cabins denser, and choices narrower. But today's flyers are different. They are more informed, more selective, and more emotionally aware of their environment, especially during travel. Psychologists call this the experience economy. It's the idea that people don't just pay for products or services, they pay for how something makes them feel. Flying is no longer just a way to get from A to B. It's an emotional journey shaped by stress, comfort, control, and trust. And for many travelers, those feelings begin forming the moment they step into the cabin. This is where the MAX 7 stands out. Because while it may look like a smaller jet on the outside, it represents a bigger psychological step forward inside. Take, for example, the cabin lighting we explored earlier. On paper, it's a technical feature, but to the brain, it's a rhythm stabilizer. Passengers walking into a softly lit cabin are more likely to associate the space with warmth, calm, and safety. These associations matter. They reduce the brain's release of cortisol, a hormone linked to stress, and encourage the production of melatonin and serotonin, which regulate mood and sleep. This connection between design and chemistry isn't speculative. It's backed by research in neuroarchitecture, a field that studies how space affects our emotions and behavior. And Boeing is now quietly applying these principles to cabin design. Even the placement of lighting strips, the tone of the materials, and the subtle curvature of the ceiling panels are carefully chosen to create a sense of openness. The human brain responds positively to curved edges and symmetrical environments. It signals safety, not threat. That's why the cabin feels more spacious, even though the aircraft's fuselage is physically similar to previous models. But the biggest psychological transformation comes from something even more subtle: control. In confined public spaces like aircraft cabins, people often feel a lack of agency. They can't choose where to stand. They can't open windows. They can't control temperature or airflow. And yet, when you give passengers even small elements of perceived control, their emotional response shifts dramatically. They feel more grounded, less irritable, and more accepting of flight conditions. The MAX 7 integrates this idea through multiple design elements. Larger bins mean passengers worry less about storing bags, a major source of anxiety during boarding. Quieter engines allow for conversation, sleep, or concentration, enhancing personal space even in shared environments. Improved lighting transitions signal what to expect: boarding, takeoff, meal service, or descent, creating a sense of predictable rhythm. Even the airflow system, which releases air from overhead in a gentler, more diffused stream, reduces the sensation of confinement. Passengers don't consciously notice it, but their brain does. It interprets that smooth airflow as a cleaner, calmer, more breathable environment. These are micro-perceptions, but they build up over the course of a flight, and they form the difference between stepping off an aircraft feeling neutral or stepping off feeling refreshed. Now think about how this impacts airlines. A relaxed passenger is more likely to rate their experience higher, more likely to return to that airline, more likely to accept future changes, like delays or route adjustments, without frustration. This emotional flexibility translates into real value for airlines operating the MAX 7. Because it's not just an aircraft, it's a tool for emotional brand building. It also plays a key role in helping airlines serve secondary routes or thinner markets without sacrificing experience. Where passengers once expected older, less comfortable planes on short-haul flights, the MAX 7 offers something surprising: a cabin that feels premium, even on smaller regional journeys. This breaks an important psychological pattern. Historically, passengers associate smaller aircraft with lesser quality, but when the experience on a MAX 7 matches or even exceeds that of larger aircraft, the brain rewrites that expectation. That reconditioning is powerful. It builds trust, not just in the aircraft, but in the airline flying it. And from a broader perspective, it reflects a shift in the aviation industry as a whole. Passenger experience is no longer an afterthought. It's becoming a strategic advantage. Cabin interiors are now treated like customer touchpoints, designed with the same attention as a smartphone interface or a luxury hotel lobby. Because every detail, no matter how small, shapes how a passenger remembers the flight. And memory, as every psychologist will tell you, is where emotion lives. If a passenger remembers feeling calm, cared for, and in control during a flight, they won't just choose that airline again. They'll talk about it. They'll share it. They'll become an advocate. That's the hidden power of the MAX 7 interior. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's intelligent design working quietly in the background to transform emotion into loyalty. For aircraft enthusiasts, It's fascinating to see how much influence psychology now holds over aerospace engineering. And for everyday travelers, it means something even simpler: better flights, better feelings, and a better reason to fly again. Every generation of aircraft tells a story, but few speak as quietly and deliberately as the 737 MAX 7. It's not shouting innovation, it's whispering intention. Not with flashy features, but with thoughtful choices built to serve a future where passenger experience is no longer optional. It's the baseline. This new standard isn't just technical, it's emotional. It recognizes that people don't leave their feelings on the jet bridge. They carry their moods, their anxieties, their expectations right into the cabin. And what happens inside that space can shape the entire perception of air travel itself. That's why the 737 MAX 7 is more than just Boeing's smallest MAX aircraft. It's the most focused expression of what future flying could feel like. The concept at the heart of its design is simple but radical. Make well-being standard. Not just for business class, not just for international routes, for everyone. And this matters because of one key human truth. We remember how things made us feel more than what they looked like. This is known in psychology as the peak end rule. People judge experiences based on two moments: the peak, how they felt at the most intense part, and the end, how they felt when it was over. Boeing's interior strategy for the MAX 7 subtly aims to influence both. The peak moment for many passengers is boarding. That's when the emotional tone is set. And the MAX 7 sets that tone with light, openness, and quiet. From the wider-looking sky interior to the calming hues of LED transitions, the cabin signals that this is not just another short-haul jet. It's something smoother, smarter, more considered. Then comes the end. The landing, the final minutes, the last impression. The MAX 7 keeps noise levels low, airflow steady, and lighting warm during descent, conditions that promote emotional closure, not just physical arrival. The result is a smoother mental transition from air to ground, something passengers may not consciously register, but will carry with them as a feeling of ease. This psychological framing of the flight experience is what sets the aircraft apart. It's not about luxury. It's about mental clarity, about removing tension one subtle cue at a time. For airlines, this becomes a strategic asset. In a market where seats are similar and ticket prices competitive, the cabin becomes the differentiator. And in a world that is slowly waking up to the importance of mental health, offering a space that naturally reduces stress, even slightly, can create a powerful emotional advantage. Airlines that operate the MAX 7 will find themselves equipped with more than just fuel-efficient engines or optimized layouts. They'll be offering passengers an environment that feels safer, calmer, and more humane. And that's the future of flying. An experience that doesn't just meet operational goals, but psychological needs. This is not accidental. It's the result of years of pressure on the industry to adapt. Passengers are no longer silent about discomfort. They share their experiences online. They leave reviews. They compare airlines based on how they were made to feel, not just how quickly they arrived. And Boeing knows this. That's why the MAX series has shifted focus, making the passenger not just a traveler, but a centerpiece of the design philosophy. What's even more telling is that these changes are being introduced in a narrow-body jet, the aircraft type often associated with cost-cutting, tight space, and minimal comfort. The MAX 7 challenges that image directly. It proves that passenger-first design doesn't need to be exclusive to premium or long-haul routes. It can and should exist in every segment. This change reflects a bigger idea in design psychology. When people feel they're being cared for, they respond with trust. Trust builds loyalty. Trust builds reputation. Trust turns a seat on a flight into something more meaningful, a positive memory. And this is the real power of the 737 MAX 7's interior. It's not just an upgrade, it's a reset. A fresh attempt at building a flying experience that respects the psychology of the modern traveler. Even frequent flyers, those who know the layouts, the procedures, the engine types, are taking notice. Not because the cabin shouts for attention, but because it removes friction. It allows them to think less about discomfort and more about the journey ahead. And in aviation, that shift, away from enduring the flight and toward enjoying it, is everything. This is the direction Boeing is moving toward. A future where the cabin environment is not a compromise, but a strength. Where the interior is not an afterthought, but a carefully tuned instrument in the passenger experience. The 737 MAX 7 quietly reveals what's possible when engineering and empathy meet. It's not about dramatic innovation, it's about subtle, strategic comfort. The kind that earns passenger loyalty without ever asking for it. So, next time you board a MAX 7, pay attention to what you don't notice: the silence, the soft light, the easy overhead space, the clean air, the calm. Those aren't features, they're feelings, and they're the future of aviation.